Hello. Today I will discuss about Malik Amber. I'm sure all of you are familiar with his name. Malik Amber is a legendary figure in the history of Deccan. He was an extraordinary man and his life was beyond extraordinary. He was born to very poor parents in an obscure corner of East Africa. His parents were so poor that they had to go without food for days on end. Forced by circumstances, Malik Amber's parents had to sell him off in slavery when Malik Amber was only 3 or 4, an infant. They might have thought, Malik Amber's parents, that if we sell him off in slavery, at least Malik Amber would have an assured supply of food. At least twice a day he would be fed. Anyway, this is how the infant Malik Amber got sold in slavery. Now, over the next several years, Malik Amber moved from one country to the other, one continent to the other. He remained constantly on the move, changing hands several times. It was finally when he was in his 20s that Malik Amber first set foot in India. He set foot in Ahmednagar, to be precise, which was the capital of Nizam Shahi Sultanate, an Indo-Muslim state. Nizam Shahi Sultanate was an Indo-Muslim state that had its capital in Ahmednagar and also had much of Maharashtra under its control. Now, the young Malik Amber took service under the Nizam Shahi Sultans of Ahmednagar. But as soon as he took service, Malik Amber realized that the Nizam Shahi Sultanate of Ahmednagar was in extremely bad condition. That was because one of the most powerful men known to history, pardon, Jalaluddin Muhammad Akbar, he was knocking furiously at the gates of Ahmednagar. Jalaluddin's men were openly boasting that these Deccanis had no chance whatsoever against Akbar-e-Azam himself. And fair enough, Ahmednagar, the capital of the Nizam Shahi Sultanate, soon fell to the Mughal armies. Everyone thought that for the Nizam Shahis the game was up. But Malik Amber had other designs in his mind. Soon enough, he took the entire charge of the Nizam Shahi administration in his hands. He consolidated all the authority in his own person and became the de facto ruler of the Nizam Shahi Sultanate. After that, things changed. Legions after legions of the Mughal army came pouring into the Deccan, but Malik Amber stood like a formidable rock. Sure, he was defeated on many occasions, but he did not give up. In fact, he managed to turn the tables on the Mughals on more than one occasion. Now, you can understand the peculiarity of the situation. A slave who was born to very poor African parents and no one was sure about his origins. Now, that slave was standing up to and taking on the might of the mighty Mughals, and he was doing it quite successfully. Now, this was a peculiar situation, and Mughal Emperor Jahangir, quite predictably, Jahangir was not very pleased with this development. He wanted Malik Amber dead, but he could not bump off Malik Amber. So what did Jahangir do? Jahangir turned to his studio. He commissioned paintings where Jahangir is shown defeating and killing Malik Amber. So what Jahangir could not achieve in real life, he tried to achieve it in his imagination. Right? Besides, in his diary, Jahangir calls Malik Amber names and heaps abuses on Malik Amber, whom he calls black-faced, ill-starred, and so on. But Malik Amber was not the man to be affected by this sort of things. Besides, he had a lot of other stuffs to look into. In Ahmednagar, he put into place a brand new revenue administration system that considerably reduced the economic pressure on the poor peasants. Besides, the relationship with the warlike Marathas was also considerably improved. In fact, a new town that Malik Amber founded had different quarters named after his Maratha friends, like Vithalpura, Malpura, and so on. Then there was a discipline in the army which Malik Amber was very serious about. Malik Amber wanted complete discipline in his army, so much so that if anyone was caught drinking wine, molten lead was poured down his throat. So you can understand that the army of the Nizam Shahi Sultanate was brought in a fine condition, and this fine army was then used to intimidate the two neighbors of Malik Amber, the Qutub Shah of Hyderabad and the Adil Shah of Bijapur, in order to make sure that these two kings, they did not cozy up to the Mughals. Malik Amber remained at the crest of his success till he passed away at the ripe age of 80. By that time, Malik Amber had achieved enough to merit praise even from the Mughals, who had no love lost for him. One Mughal historian had to confess that Malik Amber was probably one of the most extraordinary men that Deccan has ever seen. The praise was justified, of course, because not only did Malik Amber resist the Mughal onslaught over Deccan, but Malik Amber turned out to be a visionary figure in the history of Deccan. So much so that his reforms, his ways, and his methods of tackling a bigger army were adopted successfully by the Maratha kingdom that cropped up in the Deccan some decades after, right? So yeah, this is how Malik Amber's life was. This is who he was, and you might understand why I called it extraordinary. So Malik Amber, he was extraordinary.